Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Change Your Mind podcast. I'm your host, Chris Ashley, and we explore the intersection between personal development, spirituality, and science. I'm super excited for my guest. We're going to talk all about shadow work and a whole lot other spiritual topics today. First, a couple quick announcements. Head over to the links in the show notes. You'll find links for my book, Change Your Mind to Change Your Reality. You'll find links for free giveaways, my free masterclass, courses, coaching, all kinds of ways to connect with me on social media. And you'll also find all my guest links on there as well. So I'm so excited to get into it. With me, I have Nickie-Jean. So Nickie-Jean is here to support you to awaken to the freedom of your sacred self and live on purpose in your highest potential to create your heaven on earth. Bringing research psychology practices, divine spiritual gifts, and support from high vibrational realms, a long list of crack me right open life experiences, and her unique mystical talents and genius, Nickie-Jean is here for the spiritual teachers and practitioners, guides, visionaries, and those willing to show up in their authenticity to lead in love and unity into the new earth frequencies. I love that bio. Welcome, Nickie-Jean. Hi, I'm Chris. When I was younger, I went through trauma that caused me to feel broken and lost. But my life changed after I had a spiritual awakening. Since then, I've dedicated my life to studying and learning from masters all around the world that have helped me to create a life of fulfillment and abundance beyond my wildest dreams. Now I'm dedicated to sharing everything I've learned so that you don't have to suffer for decades like I did. I've seen people's lives completely transformed, and I share it all right here.
Thank you. I have been a creative writer in this lifetime as well. So, everything all culminates together.
Amazing. I am too. I got my undergrad and my graduate degree in creative writing, actually. So we have that in common.
Nice.
And
nice.
Where are you joining us from?
New Zealand. It is supposed to be summer, but it's turned a corner today. It's a little bit chilly, so and windy. And yes, we have the Christmas time in summer at the beach. So
that blows my mind. One of these days, I need to come over to that part of the world for the holidays and experience. I guess you build sandmen instead of snowmen.
Probably not on Christmas Day. I just wear elasticated or flowing dresses because, the food that day. Yeah. And sit by the pool and just chill out. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Such a different vibe. I mean, I'm in California, so it's not snowy, but it's pretty brisk out there. We've got the fireplace going. Awesome.
It's like the romantic version we get on Christmas cards. Like we really embody that here of that whole like wintry Christmas and chimneys and Santa coming down the chimney. But at the same time, it's very sunny outside. So we're polar opposites, but we're embracing the Northern Hemisphere at the same time.
I love it. Awesome. So I'm excited to have you here today. And I always start my episodes the same way. And that is by asking my guests to share their origin story. So what is it that led you on your path? How did you become this spiritual healer that you are today?
I was mowing the lawns yesterday and it came through again because how messages come through again and again and they become more expansive as you receive them. I'm like, man, I get it feels like I've been dealt the craziest hand of cards, like the movie script kind of life. But I've always been the opportunist. And for me, my spiritual growth and expansion, that's always been there, no matter how dark it's been. There's always been some kind of little light or glimmer of hope to move me beyond. So for me, the whole experience is spiritual. There's no compartmentalized because anything that I'm sharing is because of everything that I've moved through with my shadows, and it's what I believe to be true. So that's what I'm going to share. You might not be in that space, you might be curious, and that's okay. I'm just open to that. I'm sharing from what feels incredibly aligned for me in this moment right now, and that will shift and change. So the darkest moments have been spiritual experiences of this really cracking wide open, and I've never ever really been alone. So if you did a shopping list or a life CV of the really messy moments, I call them the shit fuck messes. If you did, it would be like, how the hell, sometimes I just look at myself and I'm like, how am I still going here? How am I laughing right now? Anywhere from like mental unwellness and depression, particularly in high school, to emotionally eating after university and getting and like my size increasing and me retreating and not being this bubbly social person that I naturally am. I'd actually avoid mirrors. I wasn't ready to show up and see that part of what was actually going on. And it wasn't until someone had taken here we go, Christmas photo of me sitting next to my dad. And I'm like, I just didn't recognize myself. And it's that big meltdown that you require to see where you're playing in that space for you to actually make that change. I was incredibly, like you talk about beautiful soulmate love with a guy I met at university, and we're together for nearly a decade, and I was there when he passed away. We were 27 at the time, and that was in another country, and he was murdered and he died in my arms, and that was another cracking open. So and then not long after that, it was my older brother was successful in choosing to leave. And then, so I went traveling after that, like I really leant into the grief every time. I think that's been instrumental for me, as I really allowed myself to grieve. I didn't go back to work when people were saying, go back to work. I really did what I required to just sit and be in the thick of it, to actually feel it. And then I would be in the opportunity of, and my own divine messages were coming through in those spaces. And after my brother, it was my dad from cancer. Like I'd just come back from traveling, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to burn off the French pastries. I'm going to get a new job. And then on the trip home from the airport, your dad's got cancer. And it's like, okay, so 3 deaths, males in my family, in space, I think it was 4 years. Wow. And so each was a very different experience. Now in every part I actually absolutely freaking love. The space that I'm in now, I'm in so much appreciation. There's no missing or sadness. I'm in my early 40s now. There's a lot of time period transition in that space, but I've been in the growth of, and the places that I really find myself have been where I have traveled. My last travel overseas was coming up 10 years ago, and I sold everything, and I was traveling mostly on my own on a whim, which was against my I never thought I'd travel overseas again, but it was really against my scheduled self of needing to know what was going on. And yes, I'd have freaking out moments, but it was the best thing that I did. And I came back and I had no physical money, but I was managed to move through life in that way. And my last big meltdown, I love a good melting moment, big meltdown of just an exorcism of everything that you're not. I felt divinely guided to go to the spiritual section of my local library, and there I started reading the best books of my life, like Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh, and really just I was solo parenting baby at the time, and I found the space. I wasn't even drinking coffee. I was found the space to actually, and those books were lighting me up, and being introduced to Abraham Hicks and whatnot. But the spirituality has always been there. When I was a kid, I thought it was Santa going through the window, but it was a spirit going through the window. In high school, during my big mental unwellness moments, I joined very unusual for the mid-90s, for there to be a spiritual circle for meditation for teens. But I was drawn to go there, and I did. The crystal shops at that time, that's where I was. And then it was my like early 20s that I was really in the thick of like being out of alignment. So all of it, everything that has happened has been a beautiful spiritual experience. There's times there I couldn't even, like, after my brother left, I thought I'd done something incredibly wrong. I thought it was like this big karmic payback, like, oh shit, I'm the worst person in the world. I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror. I thought I was that worthless. And so my own strategies were coming through to move through those spaces. And since then, I've worked in mental and wellness and addiction support, but I started studying. I saw Gabor Mate's work, and I loved how he talked people right into where the trauma was stuck, and then go into childhood wounds. And I did that study for a year of compassionate inquiry. It was just a year of shadow work where you're the client and the therapist, and it's the best study. And everyone in the course, who clinicians across the world, like, this is the best course we've ever done, because you've actually got to see where you're playing in that space as well. Naturally, I was getting all woo up in there, and I was going into the core and past lives and ancestral lines. And so there's a beautiful platform for me to learn how to be a divine space holder, for me to be in the evolution of doing my shadow work as it comes up. Like, no one is ever fully healed. We're expanding as far as we're willing to go. But the spiritual growth and expansion really, truly lights me up. Like that, and the travel and the dick jokes. Like, I'm here for all, like, whatever, this all lights me up. Like, this really, like, inappropriate banter with people as much as a really deep conversation about life and energy. And so all of these modalities have evolved because I go into the shadow work, because I do the inner child healing. The expansion, we're all in, for me, we're all these beautiful souls. We're no one's above or below, and we're going through this epic ascension. We're dropping off everything. Like, we're so magical that we have the capability of all the epigenetic trauma that's come through our ancestral lines, and the karma and things like that that's come through, where we're able to see that and drop it off. And we're having big meltdown moments when they're in so much resistance to the truth of who they are, which is pure love. And it's required to drop off, and it's happening en masse now. And people are like, I thought this, and there's so much grief, and it's all on purpose. And just keep going, because you're just this, when you can see this pure, this beautiful light, and we're all the same. You only see as far as the shadows that you've stuck in. And the more that you go into the shadows, the more that you expand, the more clearer you become as a beautiful channel for your own modalities. And like this, the telepathy is really like knowing like what someone's going to say just before that's coming through thick and fast, or people are just really getting curious about spirituality as you being uniquely yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing all of your story. And I just, as so many people would feel like the victim if they had just gone through a fraction of what you had gone through. Your husband was murdered and died in your arms at age 27. You lost your brother and father within a few years after that. You're a single mother. You have a lot of reason and excuses if you wanted to feel like a victim, to feel that way. But instead you call it all this beautiful spiritual experience. And I love that so much. That's what I teach too, that like everything is for lessons and growth and your own soul expansion and leveling up, and you always have a choice. But now you work with people who you are helping work through that shadow work, and who sometimes jump off on this big blame story. So how do you help people navigate that when they want to become the victim, when they want to fall into victim mode? How do you help them see that this is all a spiritual experience and it can actually have a lot of beauty in it?
So I work with, like in my human design, I'm a mental projector. So the mental projectors, where the projectors are here to guide into this beautiful new earth frequency. And I like to say I put the mental into mental projector, and we're here to guide the guides. Like we're the very, very, very beautifully unique. And in this space, so for me, I can't go chasing clients if actually they get curious. I get people coming and sitting with me in a cafe, and then they end up being my clients. And I have international clients too, who are just like, they've been watching my work on social media for a while, and they reach out and they're like, this is what I require. And so for people who are willing to actually see, because you've got to take the responsibility for the part that you're playing. My magic and what's in my beautiful black Lilith moon of my like desire, my life desire and driver, is that one of it is travel, and the other part of that is I can see, so because projectors have the bird's eye view, and we pierce into another's aura. But what I can see is exactly your vulnerability of where, I want to say where the fuck you're stuck. Rhymes. Of where the heck you're stuck behind closed doors. And for the beauty of alchemizing that into the gift and the wisdom. But when I'm in session with someone, I'm not taking them to a space where they're not ready to see that or willing to see that. It is, I'm in connection. So the way I live my life is I've got to really keep a clear channel. So I spend a lot of downtime like at the beach or lying in the, like having a rest. I have a bath in the middle of the day, what I eat, where I go. It's all divine so that I am a clear channel. And I haven't got everyone else's energy in me. I clear that out all the time, even before I came here. And I'm in connection with the person's highest self and their soul journey, and for the highest good of all, like in pure consciousness. So for the people who come to me at the moment, the more I'm expanding, I'm like, I'm here for the people who are here, like for the highest vibrational time and outcome, and to light up in that magic. So everything that is in the way of that is going to show up, and then you get the beauty of sitting with a divine space holder. And people like this, people feel safe to go there when they feel safe with themselves, of feeling vulnerable, because I don't carry any energy of I need you to get this, or there's no judgment or point of view. I just ask questions to the person that's actually come from them, for them to see themselves and hold space. And it's the emotion that, instead of going off on the story, I direct them back to work, because it's such a somatic experience, like survival, that survival mechanism of leaving and going off on the story and embellishing that, or whatever the heck it is. And sometimes there's beauty in going in the story because there's nuggets in that, but I intuitively know when to bring that in, is to come back into the body, come back to your breath, which is your biggest connection, and to actually feel that stuck emotion, or guide that ancestor 10 generations, 11 generations back, or where your soul has been. So for the victim consciousness space, I get this deeply, because I've been, like anything that I share, I've been through. So I hold like so much compassion and empathy for that level of where you're at. And some people just come in for the shadow work. Like you don't have to be freaking super woo. I've just had an in-person client for 2 months her parenting changed within 24 hours, and she started her sole business as a VA, which turned in that space, which is so magic. And then she already had a list of clients. So it is very much when you're so lit up in your experience, and I get the victim space. But if I know when I connect with people, like when we have that first, I call it a disco call or a connection call, like if you're not willing to go there, then this isn't going to work, and that's okay. I'm okay. I'm here in the future if you want to go down that route. But if someone is in blame and they want to alter, they want the outside to fix, to shift or change for them to feel better about themselves. You are like cock blocking your potential and capacity for manifesting your heaven on earth, because what's showing up in the other is actually active within you. And in blame, you're disempowering all of the magic that you have, because you're waiting for outside circumstances to change for you to feel better, and you'll always be like that. And it will get worse, and more of it will come to you, and more of it will come, and it'll get thicker and heavier and thicker and heavier. And the reason that people do that is because we've been in this like very heavy, wounded, patriarchal society, which is shifting in this ascension process of you'll believe it when you see it, and you need evidence and results. And that's shifting now to sit into this beautiful divine feminine and rest and breathe and allow your answers to come through and feel. So it's such an unraveling of not just now, of so much weight behind it. And it takes these beautiful, brave people to go first to show that this magic exists in your experience. But if you're, and I have taken people, I had a client like for 1 month, and she had like, she's been in the spiritual, and for decades she'd been trying to change everything outside of her and trying to fix it, because she felt uncomfortable. So her coping strategy was to fix out of here. And within 1 month, she realized it was her inner child. And now she goes to her inner child. And she stopped blaming and trying to project and fix. And she came, because she's like, I know I've got to come to you, and I know you're going to talk straight to me. Now, I only talk with people the way that they show up, because I'm mirroring back the energy. So some people want to be talked straight. Some people want to be held more space. And so I'm showing up naturally for each person of how they divinely like to be held.
Yeah. I mean, you touched on so many amazing points there. You know, first of all, everyone is a mirror for us, right? Like
Yeah.
if we're projecting, or oftentimes we're projecting onto someone else what we're really feeling inside of us.
Yeah.
Right. And it takes some like serious work and shadow work and looking inside to realize like, oh, in order to heal this outer world, like our inner world creates our outer world.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. So like if you heal your inner world, then the outer world falls into place, but you can't go out there and fight for change. It's like fighting for peace. It doesn't work. You can't create a war to fight for peace.
Fighting for unity, like that, I cracked up about that a couple of months ago. I was like, fighting for unity consciousness? Okay. Fighting for unity.
The two things like don't even exist in the same realm, right?
You're in division within, and when you're in your wholeness, like your balance of your divine feminine and masculine, you go from your lowest expression, and if it is a fighting and a standing, I must, like speak out my truth, that's naturally within you. But when you come into the highest expression, you're all whole in here. You connect with your heart, and the words that come out from your heart aren't ones of like, I need this to be. They're not projection. I call it projectional vomiting, because that's happened. I've been projectional vomited over quite a few times in my life.
Me too, actually.
And it's just very much like, it could be some words that are so beautiful that it stops someone in their tracks to actually think, but it's the vibration of the words that come through, because your woundedness, that energetic charge of where your soar inside isn't there, and you're speaking this authenticity and love. That vibration, it may be at the front line of a picket, but it's in a whole different capacity, because the way that you're holding your vibration and energy, like there are people here who are here to bring disclosure and speak, like that kind of thing, and truth and whatever it is. That's not my role here. And we all have that in this beautiful, the way that we're dancing through the world. But imagine if you're here in your highest expression as opposed to projecting your wounded self. Like, you're in your highest expression of being you in your authenticity. Like, that's a game changer.
Yeah, and when you were talking about like your heart speaking, like it makes me think I've done so many of those little exercises with heart math where it's like you're actually like tuning into your heart, you're feeling your heartbeat, you're imagining your heart, and it's like, what is your heart saying? And it's always messages of love, right? And compassion and empathy. Like that's what we are at our core. It's like all this other junk gets kind of layered on top of us. And when you were talking about fighting for unity consciousness, it also made me think about like, you know, there's a lot of talk in the spiritual community about how the earth is splitting, right? There's 3D earth and there's 5D earth. Like what's your take on that? You know, are we all getting more, or a lot of us getting more conscious and we're moving to 5D earth, and, you know, others are staying behind on 3D, or like, how does that work?
So in our beautiful souls experience, however the heck we show up and what our purpose is here, and some people do show up as characters. I call them lovable arseholes. I'm just being really, they're not going to go, and their divine purpose may not be here to be this full enlightenment, but it might be to trigger and initiate that, so that, you know, like if I'm triggered, if I feel, I'm gonna word this really like articulate here, because if I feel triggered, say by you, that is my work to do, because that's where I'm wounded, and so I come into a space when I'm doing my work that I get to a point it happens really quickly now. It's like, thank you so much. Thank you so much, and so much compassion and love for that role that was played where I had to see myself. So some people, actually, that's the role they're going, you know, like it's their avatar that they're going around in. And yes, like the density of like shame, guilt, and fear, that's the lowest vibrational frequencies, and it's very dense, it's very 3D, and this 3D is this division and separation. It's this very masculine, wounded masculine dominant, where it's like this, like a pyramid, and we're coming into this space where everyone's got a beautiful role. Now, if there's souls here that just don't, they're like not in for this long, you know, like this kind of hall that we're going into. And so that I physically don't know what that looks like, because there's so many possibilities, and I don't want to put what I believe out there for you to grab onto, going, this is actually a thing that's happening. What I do, what feels aligned for me at the moment, because you get to evolve as far as you get to evolve, and anything that you don't choose to learn, and if you're choosing to stay in this very like blame and shame and guilt, you know, like in this heaviness and the energies of the earth right now, like if you look at the Schumann resonance of the Earth's heartbeat frequency, it's like the Earth's heartbeat, it's the frequency, it's flushing out these toxins, and they're coming up to leave, and the toxins are these lower vibrational emotions, and seeing people in division and separation. And so what's coming up in that space, and people are grabbing onto that, going, well, I feel comfortable with this because this is all I've ever known, and they're cycling back in these patterns, and they're staying dense. Or you can do the shadow work and see and go, oh, this is where, you know, there's huge flushing. Same with all the solar flares. And so for me, it's what you're actually choosing. It's like those little choose your own adventure stories that you read in, you know, like in, well, you say elementary school, like you get to choose your path. And I'm choosing the path of love and my heart and my truth and my spiritual growth, or you can choose the path of fear. So in this space, what I'm noticing is there is a shift of what's physically, like, I'm just going to share from my current physical experience, because there's a lot of people banking on this whole, like, when's the solar flash coming? And if you're banking on something for you to feel better, that's your inner shadow work to do, because it's never about the thing that's going to happen. It's what you're doing along the way. And you can be existing in your heaven on earth now by the way that you're showing up in the world and loving your life and receiving your, I like to say, your soul aligned desires in abundance, because someone is designed to feel abundant living off the land and living off the grid in the middle of nowhere, as much as someone is calling in like huge amounts of money to support huge amounts of people. Like that is whatever the heck lights you up. So in this space, there's a massive shift in awareness of where people they're actively not doing the work. They want to stay in the stories. They're watching the news all the time. They're just stuck in that really like all the llamas wearing drama pajamas. Like they're just showing up in that space. They don't want to move. And they're very steeped. They don't want to change. And it's all these opportunities are coming in, and there's going to be a heck of a lot like next year. If there wasn't enough disclosure already, it's going to get really freaking interesting. So there's that going on, and that's okay. That's what they're up to. And then there's people who are getting curious, going like the people who are doing the work and leading in love and being this beautiful existence are role modeling. And we're like over here going, hey, this is what it's like. It's fun over here. And everyone's like, but it's apocalyptic and things are melting down. And there's this beautiful, like, for me, I'm like, yeah, this is the opportunity. This is beautiful. We get to manifest, co-create our heaven on earth in this space. And I'm in so much appreciation for those souls who are choosing, like even like young souls who are in these spaces who have only chosen to come for a short time. And I'm like, thank you for showing up to shed light on this, that I'm not buying into the stories of, because I see where they are. I see what they're up to, you know? So there is this like shift in consciousness, and it's been going, and it feels like everything's speeding up at the moment, which is like this more, and you'll notice that when you do your inner work, like the people that you were your friends that only met you in that density and they leave, and then sometimes you go through this grief like, that's my friend of like 2,900 years, and you have to let go of that because your soul family is coming in, but you're allowed the grief, or the family members who aren't doing their work, but you're leading the charge. And like coming into this holiday season, and if you've been showing up and doing your work, the rest of your family isn't, you know, like that can be, and you're an empath and you're feeling it all, like you need to take some time. But it's your physical family, like that is a spiritual experience, because it's that compassionate love for where they're at, and it's going because there's so many ideas. I don't want to plant any seeds of what this actually looks like, because I'm dancing in the unknown too. But I do know that there is a shift going on in consciousness. There are so many ideas of what this could look like. But for me, I'm focusing on what lights me up, moving through my shadow work, heaven on earth. And that's for my beautiful sunshine as well. And we talk about manifestation, and we aren't the emotion, we're feeling it move through and things like that. And for the legacy, for his future generations moving forward. So it's very much, for me, it's been moving along, and you're feeling this. And when I'm walking in the street in my town, it's how I see people as well. So if I see someone in fear or really angry, that's my inner work to do. But if I see them through the eyes of source and love, they're going to be like a completely different person. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, you touched on so many things that I wanted to jump in and be like, yes. And I feel like it all comes down to perspective and choice, right? You know, like you were talking about, like you always have a choice between living your joy and your true authentic self and following your passion and focusing on you and you know your own personal growth and development and doing that shadow work and love and alignment, or you can, as you so perfectly said it, like grabbing onto what's comfortable, right? And maybe that's fear and anger, or being stuck in these stories that you have of blame. And I actually write about this in my book, so I love that you said it at the end, that there's so many ways to look at another person, right? And there's so many facets to another person where, you might see them as this villain in your life, like maybe that's their soul contract with you, right? That they're supposed to be this enemy that's going to trigger you to grow or to learn or give you the opportunity to, right? It's always a choice again. But there's probably people in that person's life who love them and see the best in them. And you always have a choice of how you look at someone. And by the way, the way that you choose to look at them is probably how they're going to show up for you, right?
Yeah, there's a beautiful children's book by Neil Donald Walsh called The Little Soul in the Sun, which is great for adults as well, because it explains exactly like how our souls meet before we come here, and how we go through this, like we forget, and how they show up. Like if they've come to support you to learn forgiveness, so they offer that opportunity of being something to forgive, that you forget who they were before you actually came here, because you're just watered up in the active wound of that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like they're probably your really good friend on the other side of the veil, right? And they part because it gives you the opportunity to practice forgiveness, or it gives you the opportunity to grow in some sort of way, right? So really, like these monsters in our lives are cheerleaders on the other side.
Yeah. All my life, like so much. And when you can do that, you've really cracked a big thing, because you've busted through societal norms of making like that heavy wounding and conditioning, that someone's got to be blamed and someone's at fault and someone's wrong. And when you come into that wholeness of seeing the experience, like if I wasn't into where I'm at for what I'm here, like my purpose becomes more expansive, and my soul gifts and everything drop through the more I go into my shadow work. And like if I was still like, I think it's been 14 years, I can't remember, like if I was still missing the man I married, like if I was still like every day like, oh my gosh, like there are some people who live in that experience, and that's cool, that's their experience. I would, like I'm missing out on so much, because there's no missing. Like just my whole life experience of that got me into this like fun and joy, because that's who he was here. He was quite next level. And all these things he'd been trying to teach me, I got after, like this transitionary piece. And yes, it was freaking hard, but oh my gosh, I would not change it for anything. And the way that I connect with him now is really like beautifully next level when he drops in. But it's just, I would get to 80 and be like, whoa, I spent my life focused on this thing in this way, when there was, and then you transition over and go, whoa, there was so much more, like next lifetime I'm going to go in and the experiences get bigger and bigger for you to crack open.
Totally. Like if you don't learn something in this lifetime, you better believe you're going to get those same lessons, similar people, similar circumstances, until you actually learn that lesson, right? And it's probably
they're going to get,
like you're saying,
right in your face, like really, really, really feel really hard and dense, but they become the most beautiful. And I just have so much love for that whole situation, what I learned, just divine. It's divinity. And on a very expansive level, it's divine because you created that for you.
Yeah. Before you incarnated, right? Like you create your big life circumstances. And like that was your contract with him too, right? Like It was like, we're going to get married and this thing's going to happen. And this is all for me, right? For my growth and for his growth.
Yeah. And so if you're blaming someone else, you're blaming yourself because you've created that experience so that you can come out of your own cage.
Totally. And then it even gets more amplified when you think about the idea that like we're all one, right? We're all connected.
Yes.
Like really, that's just another aspect of you that you're getting angry at. It's like looking at yourself in the mirror and getting mad at the reflection, right?
Yeah. Yes. All of the years. Because when you can see that you are like you're in that pure love and source of going, me that I've created, because the way that I'm seeing the other person is a reflection of where I'm at. And it's that there's something I kept prefacing Neil Donald Walsh, but I'm sure someone listening out there is just going to hook on and go, yes. Because there's been so many beautiful spiritual teachers that I've read and like gone soaked up like a sponge. But he tells this beautiful story and of something that's happened, but he brings it back to I am that I am. So anyone that you see, and if you're feeling like I am that I am, and you keep repeating that over and over and over and over again, and then it shifts and changes within you. That what you're hating over here, that is actually a piece of you. I am that I am.
I love that. And I've heard like anything you place after the words I am is, you're manifesting, right? You're creating. So I am that I am. It's like, that's even more powerful, right? It's like,
oh yeah.
What was the name of the children's book he wrote? The Soul and the what?
The Little Soul in the Sun by Neil Donald Walsh.
Okay. I've read Conversations with God, but I didn't know he wrote a children's book. I'm actually 8 months pregnant, so I'm going to buy that. Awesome. Okay, so if someone's listening to this episode and they're like, okay, I'm getting inspired by this, like it's obvious to me I have some shadow work to do, like where do they even start? How does someone start looking at their own shadow?
It's taking responsibility of, when you're so uncomfortable and you're like, what do I do? How do I change this? This is when there's so many modalities. Like I'm not the be all and end all. It's just like there are so many people in this experience. Is listen to your intuition. Like this is what I really, really, truly love in my work is I don't like people following my footsteps. I'm like, your authenticity, what aligns with you, what aligns with you, the highest good of all and your highest vibrational time and outcome. Like what's coming through for you? Because I don't want to tell people what to do because that's disempowering as well. Because you are your leader. So intuitively, when people are so wadded up in a wound, you don't see the answers that you're asking for in that space. Like I had someone sitting across from me at a table in a cafe going, these are all my problems. What do I do? Ask for my advice. And I'm like, you need to go within. Like, oh, but I'm feeling this. And I'm like, do you still want to feel that way? And they're like, yes. And I'm like, well, you're going to keep getting the same thing. Like they didn't want to shift. They wanted me to justify their experience and their story. And that's not me.
Right.
I'm here to get to the heart and transmute. So whatever is, follow your breadcrumbs of your heart. Like if it is the simple, you've been invited to go to a Christmas party and you're not feeling it, don't go. Like when you start practicing that, if you're scrolling on socials late at night and you're like, oh, I can't do this anymore, then stop doing it. If you're like, yoga teachers coming up, then go to yoga. If you're like, this I need help with this problem, and someone says in a conversation, it could be that there's a retreat on, or like ecstatic dance, or like, like my work, like people follow my stuff for ages and then they're like, boom, Nickie-Jean. Like it is, and you bust through. You get out of the fear, like, because people often confuse fear with their intuition, or they'll get an intuitive hit and then their head justifies all the reasons why they shouldn't.
Right.
Like this is the part, this is the old conditioning. This is the thing you gotta practice. And if you don't know how to use your freaking intuition, this is what I'm gonna invite you to do. Go on a Sunday, like a Sunday drive, left or right or straight. First thing that comes to mind. Left, right, or straight, and follow that. Follow it, follow it, follow it, and enjoy the journey. Start practicing that.
I love that advice a lot. And it makes me think of Bashar. He talks about it like a similar thing all the time. And I've just gone down this Bashar hole. Like you said, sometimes you find someone and you just soak it all up. But
yeah.
It's all about like following your passion in any given moment.
Yes.
Right? Like what makes you feel alive in that moment? And maybe it's something easy like, I'm going to go make some hot cocoa or like go for a walk.
Yeah.
And then if you keep following things that make you feel good, you're going to attract more things on that level, right?
Yeah, and it's honoring all of those parts of you, because the play and the fun, which people find really fucking hard to do, is to go and have fun, or they don't know what they like, or they've attached that to their significant other or their children, and they've been playing a role that's so out of alignment. And that's like, well, what's fun for you? And they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, that's where the magic happens, because you've done this beautiful discovery. What do you mean? I'm still and it's like, what did you like to do when you were a kid? And so having the fun and the play is inner child healing, as much as going to learning how to reparent that aspect of you that's stuck. It's anything we're uncomfortable with, because the trigger is never about the thing. If you lose your mind at traffic, something happening at traffic because you're just losing your mind, it won't be about the traffic. It'll be an energetic paper trail to where that's stuck. Now, if you really, really, really want to get deep into going to your things quick, like your wounds quickly, I talk about it. It's like putting on, say, wax or a Band-Aid. And if you rip it off slowly, it's going to create suffering on the hair. Like it's really freaking painful. All at once, like this is what the work that I do, go straight into the core of this, hold space for it all at once. And then you're like, it's bad. So the long-term suffering, the discomfort, is because you're out of alignment. You're not getting it wrong. You're researching it, and it's uncomfortable because it's not you who is love and expansive. It's constricting. And so, if you really want to get into the thick of like it's a somatic experience, because trauma disconnects. So it's so many modalities at once. And if you're going to a healer all the time or a card reader all the time for the same thing, you're avoiding doing that work yourself. And I love that, I love healers. Like they're there to shine some light, to clear the energy in co-creation with you, because you're doing this work too, or the same with the readers, so that you can see yourself. But if you're not going to act on that thing, then you're going to be stuck in that space. So yoga has helped me a lot to connect with stuck emotion. Like deeply, like I know memories about it, but it was there and it was raw and real. Breath work is amazing. Learning how to shadow work, journal, loving all the emotions, like getting into something like sacred rage, or having people that will hold space for you. Divine space holders are required right now, because gossip is going off on the story or making another person wrong, and it's going to keep you in that space. For me, I have like soul family here in the physical. I have beautiful, like divine soul family way out there, and here in the physical. If I've got a problem, doesn't matter what it is about, it's never about the thing. They will have no point of view. They'll have no judgment. It's me getting something out. And then I open up this beautiful purple violet flame. I'm really conscious with what I'm doing. And if I'm stuck, I'll ask for their support, and they'll give me some questions to go within. And, as a mental projector, I talk a lot of stuff out, and the solution will come through. They're not buying into the story. They're there to hold space. And that's what's required right now, so that people don't go down these rabbit holes again. Things like, I think there's a lot of rage that people haven't been expressing, and it's physically coming out in the body. And behind anger is deep sadness and or fear. Learning how to clean up your energy and your boundaries, your energy leaks. I like to say standards over boundaries, because for me, it looks like a fence, and it's like you're cutting off your own experience, because if this person is there, but there's a part of you that's invited that into the experience. I'm like, these are standards. These are my non-negotiable standards. One must play, one must rest, one must meditate every day. Like, that is me. That's required for me. And they expand as well, as I do. Finding some kind of, like what I do, what you do, of going to the heart of what's actually going on, and whatever modality is coming up with you. As someone is trauma informed, trauma is stuck energy. Everyone has it. No one got through scot-free. So there's so many different modalities of, like sound healing, like whatever feels aligned for you or that you're curious about. Even the people you feel triggered by, there will be gems in there, because that is magic. The triggers are the gateway to your freedom. They're here to alchemize your core wounding. Your core wounding is your magic, because when you see the stuck emotion and alchemize and hold space, the gift of that for your people you're here to support, like in my Gene Keys chart, my brand, my life's work, 70% of my energy output is from oppression into like transmutation of energy and transfiguration, and all place being pressed. Like, oh, there we go. Rating, and so the sound system just went. I'm getting all excited. It's going. But we're.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say, it's funny because before we started, just for listeners, Nickie-Jean was like, "Okay, disclaimer, sometimes when the energies come in, the technology goes wonky," and it's like, yep.
It's but for me, emotions have been repressed and have sat in my body, and that's been the depression, and it hasn't been my emotions. Like, the more I've learned about my Gene Keys and my human design, like, that's super helpful, and so I bring that into when I'm supporting people. It's just we're all just walking each other home. I love that quote by Ram Dass. So go follow the breadcrumbs. Like, it could be a meditation circle. Follow the breadcrumbs. There's a Reiki healer, whoever is it just feels aligned and it's calling out to you. Take that leap of faith, because that's your intuition is the divine support you've been asking for, and you get a little breadcrumb at a time.
I love that advice so much. And I love that you said you get a little breadcrumb at a time, because I was just thinking as you were talking, you might get drawn to a Reiki healer now, and then you do that for a while, and then you're drawn to go to the next thing and the next. And it's this journey, and we're never like fully quote unquote healed, right? It's like it's just a continuous path, and we're all just doing our best, and it's like peeling away the layers. I can't believe an hour has gone by already. I've loved this conversation. I've loved everything you've shared. Thank you so much for everything you've shared. And I'm sure listeners want to know where they can find you. What are some of your offers, how they can get in touch with you. So let people know where you are out there.
Probably find me standing on a beach somewhere in New Zealand at the moment. So if you want to connect with me in socials, I do the work that I put out there, the posts that come through, everything, it's all channeled. Like, I put a lot of beautiful messages, and a lot of it is practical, just navigating life. So I am on Instagram as @galactic.oracle. As much as I love playing in the shadows because it's so cool. In the alchemy, I go really out into the ethers, into this beautiful celestial experience as well with all our friends out there. So on Facebook, I have a group that is Galactic Oracle Nickie-Jean. I have my website, Nickie-Jean.com. That's Nickie-Jean.com. I just tried to draw, because of my accent, just draw out the letters there a little bit.
It'll all be in the show notes too. So
yeah. And where I'm heading at the moment, because this is evolving as well, like I do packages that really support people just wanting to get into the shadow work and I empower people to be doing that themselves, so that you are expanding in your own capacity. So you don't actually need me. I'm not here for you to need me. I'm here to walk alongside you on your journey. But the other thing is I'm here to support the spiritual teachers and the visionaries and the guides and the leaders and people who do show up in the spiritual space of those really, really sticky points that you don't quite see, that I get right in there because I bring in very divine, because I've been gifted so many divine contract clearing statements and things like that energy shifts in that capacity as well. And next year I'm going to be doing, I love this, you'll love this, like in 9 months, like it's a birthing from February to October, 9 months called Beyond, because next year is going to be energetically super interesting. So it is for the spiritual practitioners and teachers and guides to have this beautiful community and channeled messages and divine clearings and healings, and going through the shadow work as it's rising, and to be in your soul aligned business in alignment with your gene keys and human design. Like it's that whole inner community of celebrators with you, of holding space for you. So that's birthing. Yeah. So I do 1-to-1, and then I, like things like this drop through. If people want a one-off session, I do a soul expansion session. Can bring in medium, psychic medium, which is really like child's play for me at the moment. That's just, I don't like to say, oh, this is what like, yes, this is what's required, but to support people, like teach a person to fish, to go out into the world. So there can be a lot of divine healing in that space of where people are stuck. And if anyone needs a distance clearing or healing, they can message me. It's donation. They are across the world and they are felt at that time. I can, like houses, people, land, bits of land. I just come in with my divine crew, and I have on the top of my Instagram page, you'll see it's pinned to the top. There's a divine clearing and healing in collaboration with Ishmael. So that is for people to access any time that you need a top up, that you feel like, oh, something feels a bit off. So yeah, I'm in a continual evolution. So to know what I'm up to is to jump in my socials. But yes, I do 1-to-1 mentoring, shadow work, and I've got Beyond coming up next year.
Amazing. So again, all of that, the links are going to be in the show notes, so you can get in touch with Nickie-Jean. And thank you so much for coming on. For anyone listening, if this resonated, please like, share, subscribe. If there's someone in your life who maybe could use some shadow work, maybe you just send this over if you're inspired.
Everybody.
Yeah, we could all use some shadow work. And yeah, have a beautiful rest of your day, everyone. I'll see you next time.
Thank you.